I was cheated on by my wife, and my own parents said it was my fault. My name is Mike. I'm 34 years old, and that sentence broke me more than the cheating itself. I came home early that day because my boss let the team go before the usual time. I entered through the back door, and right away I saw a pair of men's sneakers that weren't mine. A strange smell in the air, cheap cologne mixed with sweat. I climbed the stairs slowly, heart pounding in my throat. When I pushed the bedroom door open, there she was, my wife, with another man, in our bed. And the worst part, she didn't even look surprised. She didn't even bother covering herself. She just looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have come home early." I was shaking from head to toe. I left the house without saying a word, got in the car and drove straight to my parents' place, hoping, I don't know, for a hug, a son. That's awful. You don't deserve this. But no. My dad was on the couch with a beer in hand. My mom was cleaning the kitchen. When I told them, my voice shaking, what had just happened, my dad said, "Mike, honestly, if she cheated on you, you must have done something. You're partly to blame." And my mom added, "And look, if you're going to stay here, you'll have to help with the bills. Electricity, water, groceries. No free ride just because you got cheated on." I felt like garbage. Like the pain I was carrying was just some kind of self-indulgence. Like I wasn't a son in need of support, but a burden. But I swallowed it all. I had nowhere else to go. I went back to sleeping in the tiny childhood bedroom, in a bed that barely held my weight, under the same roof as people who acted like I was an inconvenient guest. And when I thought it couldn't get worse, my sister showed up. Samantha, 4 kids, a husband who vanished, and a natural gift for chaos. She pulled up in front of my parents' house with screaming kids in the car, bags thrown on the ground, and a look that said she already knew she'd be welcomed with open arms. And she was. But for that to happen, they asked me to leave, literally. My mom came into the room and said, "Mike, Sam needs this space more than you. Take your stuff and find a place. She's got small kids," as if I didn't matter, as if I were disposable. So I left. Spent hours in my car, not knowing where to go. Slept 2 nights in it. But I kept paying my parents' bills because they said they couldn't afford everything on their own. And I, like an idiot, agreed. Because deep down, I still wanted to belong somewhere. The truth is, that rejection from my parents wasn't exactly a surprise. It hurt, of course, but if I'm honest with myself, it was just another repetition of a lifetime of being second place. I was always the easy child, the one with good grades who didn't cause trouble, who learned to take care of himself, and because of that, I was ignored. Ever since I was little, I realized that for my mom and dad, the world revolved around Samantha. I remember one Christmas when I was about 10. I begged for a metal building set for weeks, showed them the catalog every day. "Look at this one, Dad. You can build a real crane with it." He just grunted and went back to watching TV. On the 25th, I rushed to the tree and saw a box with my name on it. I opened it. It was a t-shirt. Wrong number, and from a team I didn't even like. Meanwhile, Sam got a brand new bike, a makeup kit, and even cried because she wanted the same phone her friend had. She was 13, and she got the phone too, the next day. At the time, I didn't understand. I just figured maybe I wasn't good enough. So I tried harder. Top grades, college scholarship, first job before I was 18. Never asked for anything. Never caused trouble. Never complained. But if Samantha cried, everything stopped. When she got pregnant in her senior year of high school, my mom spent weeks sleeping at the hospital with her. My dad sold the car to help with baby supplies. Me? I took the bus for 2 years to get to college. One day I went to them. I was around 24, exhausted, trying to keep 2 jobs and still living off instant noodles most days. I said, "Could you help with rent this month? I'm really tight, just this once." My mom looked at me like I'd asked for a kidney. "Mike, you're a man. You're old enough. We already have enough problems with Sam and the kids. We can't support another adult." Supporting Samantha was a duty. Helping me was a burden, and I accepted it. Swallowed it again. Pushed it down like always. Because a part of me thought that if I kept being the low-maintenance child, eventually I'd be acknowledged. But that acknowledgement never came. Not when I got married. They made faces when I introduced Kate as if she were too plain. Not when I bought my first car in full. Not even when I got promoted. But when Samantha showed up for the 3rd time with a different baby in her arms, not knowing who the father was that earned a special dinner, a Facebook post from my mom, my pride, my warrior, and I was just there, quiet, watching from a distance, wondering if one day, just one single day, I'd get that kind of look. There was one night I'll never forget. I was about 16. I had spent the entire day studying for a physics test that, if I aced it, would guarantee me a spot in a student exchange program. It was my dream to leave that neighborhood, see someplace else, have a real shot at something. At dinner, I sat down excitedly, still holding my study guide, ready to tell them how well I was doing. My mom put the plate on the table without even looking at me and said, "Eat quickly. Sam's going to need us after." I asked what had happened. She had a fight with her best friend. She's crying in her room. This isn't the time to talk about tests. I ate in silence. Then I washed the dishes alone, like always, while my dad went upstairs to deal with her. When I finished, I went to my room, sat on the bed, and cried, quietly, so no one could hear. That was the first time I thought maybe it didn't matter how hard I tried, that no matter how right I did everything, I'd always be less. Years later, when I was living on my own and my sister would call me at 2 a.m. crying because her boyfriend had disappeared, I still answered. I'd leave the house to pick her up from sketchy places, put her kids in my car, take them to my apartment, and even buy them food. Once, one of her daughters looked at me and asked, "Uncle Mike, why are you so nice to Mommy? She's never nice to you." I froze and smiled so I wouldn't cry. Because she's my sister, sweetie, and siblings take care of each other. But even I didn't believe that anymore. When my parents called to say Sam was moving back in, after her third breakup, 4 kids, and a pile of debt she caused herself, I just asked, "What about me? Where am I supposed to go?" The answer came quick. "You're an adult. Figure it out." That phrase, "figure it out," that was always the line. I figured it out to avoid falling apart, to pay the bills, to carry everyone on my back, to pretend I wasn't hurting. And then, like it was the most normal thing in the world, my mom said, "And please, keep paying the electric bill. It's high this month, and with the kids here, it'll only go up." I couldn't even respond right away. I just stared at the phone in my hand, with that tight knot in my chest that I knew all too well. They didn't ask where I was sleeping, or if I was eating. They just wanted the bill paid. One night, it rained nonstop, and I slept in my car with the seats reclined, parked behind a gas station. It was freezing. I had just a backpack with some clothes and my work laptop. I placed them on my chest to stay warm. The next morning, I had terrible coffee at the gas station and went straight to the office. I washed my face in the bathroom on the ground floor before heading up. Everyone greeted me like normal. No one had any idea I was living in my car. I smiled, delivered my reports, made jokes at lunch. But inside, I was falling apart. That same day, my mom texted asking for more money. She said one of the kids broke the microwave by heating up milk with a fork inside. She ended the message with, "If you were here, that wouldn't have happened. But you chose to leave, didn't you?" They had kicked me out. Literally. But their version of the story was always different. To the neighbors, to the church, to the rest of the family, I was the ungrateful one who abandoned the house during tough times. My mom even said it out loud at a family dinner I was mistakenly invited to by my cousin. She raised a glass of wine and said with that passive-aggressive tone only she could pull off, "At least we have Sam here with us. She's got her flaws, but she's present, unlike certain sons who prefer to vanish." I couldn't even swallow the food. I got up and left. And still, I kept paying the damn bills. Not for them, for my nieces and nephews. They didn't ask for this. Even if they were spoiled, loud, and completely undisciplined, they were still just kids. But then it got worse. Sam started calling to complain. Said the house was cramped, the boys had nowhere to play, our parents were on her case all the time, and it was my fault for not renting a place for her. One night she texted, "Since you've got a steady paycheck and no wife or kids, the least you could do is get us a place. It's hell here." Like I was a bank, a resource, a pet idiot. I stared at that message for minutes, trembling, because it wasn't just her voice. I heard my mom behind those words, my dad too. They all thought the same. I wasn't a brother, a son, a human being. I was the provider, and even without a bed, without a roof, I was still expected to keep everyone else comfortable. One afternoon, I got a call from one of my nephew's schools. The principal wanted to know if I was Caleb's legal guardian, the oldest one. I was confused, told him I was just the uncle. He replied, "Oh, it's just that your sister listed your name and phone number as the legal contact on the enrollment form." A chill ran down my spine. What happened to him? He got into a fight and broke a desk. Someone has to cover the damages. That same day, my sister texted asking for $250 to pay for the damage. Didn't even bother explaining what had happened. Just wrote, "You need to help me. I'm already overwhelmed with everything here." And when I told her I couldn't, that I was late on my own rent, she sent me a voice note, almost 3 minutes long, crying, calling me selfish, saying her kids were suffering because of me, that she was alone, and everyone turned their backs on her, including her own brother. In the end, my mom jumped in too. She sent a dry message. Mike, we didn't raise you to turn your back on family, but they never turned their backs on Samantha, no matter what she did. The following week, I went to the house. After all, I was the one footing the bills. What I found was a nightmare. The new couch I had bought just a few months earlier was destroyed, covered in marker drawings. There was food stuck to the kitchen floor, dishes piled up, toys everywhere, even in the sink. My mom appeared in the hallway with a tired look and said, "You see how hard this is? Sam's doing her best." But with 4 kids and no help, I looked at her and asked, "Did you at least think to tell me Samantha listed me as the legal guardian for her kids?" She shrugged. She thought it was more practical. "You're the most stable person in the family, aren't you? Aren't you?" As if that justified everything. As if being stable meant I had to carry everyone's mess. I went up to my old room, and it didn't even exist anymore. There was a mattress on the floor, stains on the walls, a TV blaring cartoons at full volume. 2 of the kids were tossing popcorn in the air, trying to catch it with their mouths. One of them spat it onto the rug. I stood there, feeling like a stranger in my own life. My sister showed up at the door with a fake smile. "Good thing you came. The power's getting cut tomorrow if it's not paid by 10 a.m. I stared at her, saying nothing for a few seconds. She rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't start. It's just until I find a gig. I've been looking into some stuff online." She'd been saying that for 3 years. 3. There was a night I was completely exhausted. After working overtime on a project due the next day, I just wanted to lie down. I called my mom, asked if I could stop by and take a shower, since I still hadn't found a permanent place to live and was bouncing between Airbnbs, depending on what I could afford. She hesitated for a few seconds, then said, "The house is really full, and Sam has the flu. Better not." In the background, I could hear the kids screaming, loud music, some kind of fight going on. I sighed. "I just need a hot shower, Mom. 10 minutes. She replied coldly, "Mike, please, don't bring more stress." Stress. I was the stress. Meanwhile, the ones breaking furniture, wrecking the house, yelling at their parents, not paying a single bill, they were the priority. A few days later, my sister sent me a rental listing with a note. "This one works. 3 bedrooms, backyard for the boys. If you can pay 2 months in advance, they'll let us move in next week." I thought it was a joke. "Sam, are you seriously asking me to pay for a whole house for you?" "Well, you can afford it." I laughed. A dry, bitter laugh. "I'm living out of a backpack. You know that, right? Because you want to. You could be here with us, helping. But you'd rather play the martyr." At that moment, I nearly smashed my phone. I walked into the office bathroom and locked myself inside, staring into the mirror, wondering how the hell I ended up here. And it didn't stop there. My dad called me one Sunday. I thought it might be to check on me. But no. He started with, "Mike, your sister's overwhelmed. Can you take the kids for the weekend? Just give them a break. Take them out or something." "I'm working, Dad. You work too much, man. They need you. They have a mother. And you have a family. And if family doesn't help each other, who will? Family." The word they used as a shackle. After that, the demands just kept coming. My mom called complaining that the neighbors were talking about the kids' mess and that it was my fault for not renting a better house for them. They said I was selfish, that I was trying to teach a lesson instead of helping. And every time I said no, they flipped the script, called me ungrateful, arrogant, as if everything they had done, or rather failed to do, was erased. And now I was the problem in the family. Even a distant cousin messaged me on Instagram. "Mike, your mom's really upset. You guys used to be so close. Why are you doing this to her? Why was I doing this to her?" That was the story. It always had been. I started to realize they were spreading narratives about me. Stories painting me as the cold, distant, ungrateful son. Even my uncle, whom I hadn't seen in years, texted me on WhatsApp saying, "It's time to let go of your pride and support your family." When I asked what he was talking about, he said, "Your mom told us you abandoned the house and left them hanging, with Sam and the kids with nowhere to go. Said you even threatened to cut the power." I was in shock. Took a deep breath, gripping my phone. I felt exposed, betrayed, again, but this time, doubled. Because now it wasn't just ingratitude, it was lies. I replied, "I paid the electric bill, groceries, gas, internet, even after they kicked me out, even while I was sleeping in my car." He saw the message, never replied. Their version was more convenient. It was easier to say I was the ungrateful one than to admit they were exploiting the only child still keeping the household afloat. But what hurt the most was getting a voice message from my youngest niece, about 7 years old. Sam probably made her record it. You could hear her whispering in the background. The little girl said, "Uncle Mike, why don't you like us anymore? Mommy said you don't want us around." My throat locked up. That was it. They were using the kids now, turning my forced absence into some cruel choice. That day, I wandered aimlessly through the streets. I ended up in a 24-hour diner and ordered a coffee that went cold without me taking a single sip. I sat for hours staring at the cup, thinking about every choice I had made to end up here. I had a good job, earned well, was praised at work, seen as responsible and reliable. But outside of that, I was the villain. And the more distance I tried to put between me and them, the more guilt they piled on me. It was constant. You turned your back on us. You don't care about your nephews and nieces. You're making your mother sick with worry. You've got money and choose to save it instead of helping. And the worst part? Some part of me still felt responsible. Still believed that maybe, just maybe, if I did a little more, gave in one more time, things would finally fall into place. But they never did. It only got worse. Until one day, my mom called with a shaky voice saying my dad had fallen in the bathroom, she was alone with the kids, and I needed to come back home. Update. Last night, something happened that shattered whatever was left. When my mom called saying my dad had fallen, I dropped everything. Literally. I closed my laptop in the middle of a client meeting, grabbed my car keys, and drove straight to their house. I was still in the same clothes from the day before. I didn't even think. I just went. When I got there, my dad was sitting on the couch with an ice pack on his ankle. It didn't seem serious, but he was groaning like he'd shattered both legs. Sam wasn't even in the room. The kids were screaming upstairs, and my mom was in the kitchen whipping batter like nothing had happened. "You said it was urgent," I said, looking around. My mom gave me a loaded look. "And it's not? He could have broken his hip. If he'd been alone, he could still be on the floor. But he wasn't alone. You were here. So was Sam. Sam went to the store. And I'm tired, Mike. I'm doing everything alone here." I said nothing, walked over to my dad. "You okay? Want to go to the hospital?" He shook his head, frowning. "I used to be tougher, but I'm alive. Want me to take you? If you want to be useful, pay the hospital bill. We don't have insurance since you left." The words hit hard. Then my mom chimed in. "By the way, if you really wanted to help, you'd come back home. At least until Sam finds a place." "I don't live here anymore." "That's your choice," she snapped, like I left just for fun. I went upstairs. The hallway was filthy. One of the kids had drawn on the walls with markers. A strong smell of pee was coming from the back room. I stepped into what used to be my room, now just a stained mattress, scattered toys, a plate with sour food crusted in the corner. My sister was lying on the bed, phone in hand, laughing at something on the screen. "You went to get food?" I asked. She looked at me, bored. It was annoying here. I needed to get out. Mom called me in a panic, said Dad fell and everything was falling apart. "So? He's fine, isn't he?" Her drama. I held it in. Swear to God, I held it with everything I had. "Do you even realize what's happening here? What you're all doing to me? Doing to you?" She laughed. "Oh, great. Here comes the victim act. You have a job, money, a car, everything, and you still act like a martyr. I'm paying the bills in this house while sleeping in my car, Samantha." She shrugged. "No one asked you to. If you're doing it, it's because you want to." In that moment, something inside me just broke. I stepped closer to the doorway, heart pounding in my throat. I was trembling, not from fear, but from rage. That deep, silent kind of rage that doesn't scream. It just burns. I looked at my sister, lying there like a guest in a hotel I was paying for, her forehead caked with foundation, fake lashes, and freshly done nails. The kids were scattered across the house, my father demanding money, my mother complaining like I was some careless employee and not the discarded son. I took a deep breath and said, "You took my room from me, the only thing that was still mine." She didn't even glance up. "Oh, please, Mike. You weren't even living here." It was pathetic. A grown man still at his parents' house. I was just trying to get back on my feet. "Get back from what? Your slutty wife?" She scoffed. "Honestly, she just did what everyone wanted to do to you but didn't have the guts." My hand clenched into a fist. For a second, just one, I thought I was going to snap, but I turned around and went downstairs, almost tripped over a doll on the staircase. When I got to the living room, my mom stood there in a sauce-stained apron, looking at me like I was the problem in the world. "What now?" she asked. I tried to keep my voice steady. Do you all realize what you're doing? You kicked me out, lied to the family, made me pay for everything, and still treat me like I'm some kind of intruder? She didn't even blink. Samantha has children. Kids, Mike. They need stability. And me? When I needed you, where were you? When Kate cheated on me, you said it was my fault. When I asked for a place to sleep, you charged me utilities and threw me out. She slammed the spoon in the sink. What do you want? Applause for being a man and paying your bills? Playing the victim again? I just wanted... My voice cracked. I just wanted someone to see me. She laughed. A short, bitter laugh. Grow up, Mike. The world doesn't revolve around you. And in that moment, I understood. They were never going to change. They were never going to see me as a son, a brother, a man. I was just a resource, a walking wallet, a name on the power bill. I left the house like a zombie. The air outside was heavy and suffocating, like time itself had stopped. I sat in the car for almost an hour, hands on the wheel, unable to turn the key. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror, and I swear, I didn't recognize who I saw. Update 2. I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I stopped paying. Electricity, water, gas, internet, all in my name. The next day I went straight to the power company and canceled everything. Did the same for the internet. Told the bank to stop the auto debit for their groceries. Canceled even the streaming services they were using, also under my account. And most importantly, I went to a lawyer, told her everything. Showed her screenshots, voice notes, receipts. She was quiet for a while and then said, Mike, this is family exploitation. And more than that, we can get your name off everything tied to these kids. You're not their legal guardian. We'll clear it all. I signed every document like I was signing my release papers. When I walked out of her office, for the first time in years, my shoulders felt lighter. 2 days later, my mom called me furious. What did you do? The power got cut. The kids were left in the dark. I answered calmly, coldly, with a voice I'd never used with her before. That's no longer my problem. She went quiet for a few seconds, then exploded. How dare you? What kind of son does this? The kind of son you never saw. She hung up on me. That same night, I got over 20 messages from Samantha, all in caps, calling me names, accusing me of destroying the family, saying her kids were crying that I was a monster. The last message said, if you had 1 ounce of heart, you'd rent that house already. Now we're going to be evicted. I replied simply, good luck with that. Then I blocked both of them. 2 days later, my dad showed up outside my job, waited for me to get off work. I saw him leaning against his car, looking defeated. Can I talk to you? He asked. You've got 2 minutes. He started saying Sam was falling apart. The kids weren't in school. My mom was sick from stress. The neighbors were talking. He was embarrassed. I looked him straight in the eyes. Now you know how I felt for years. Mike, you're a man. You can handle more. I handled too much, and you crushed me for it. He reached out his hand, like a peace offering. I stepped back. If any of you come after me again, I'll sue. His eyes widened. For the first time, he seemed to understand I wasn't playing around. 2 days later, my cousin, the same one who'd guilted me weeks earlier, called me. She sounded nervous. Mike, your mom said you threatened to sue her. Is that true? It is. But why? I took a deep breath. Because they used my name on legal documents without my permission, made me guardian of those kids, faked my signature. Silence. I didn't know. Nobody knows. Because no one ever asks what's going on with me. They just believe whatever they make up. She apologized. She was the first in the family to do that, even if just a little. The next day, my lawyer called and said she had officially filed for the removal of my name from the kids' school registrations. That the formal notice had also been sent to my parents, declaring I was no longer financially responsible for anything. She ended the call with, now, if they keep harassing you, we'll take action. I thanked her. For the first time, I felt like someone was actually protecting me, and then chaos erupted on their end. I started receiving a flood of messages from Samantha using yet another number. You ruined my kids' lives. You're a garbage brother. I should have kicked you out myself. You're going to die alone, you worthless piece of crap. I blocked her. 2 days later, my mother showed up at my workplace. Yes, she came all the way there, waited at reception with a cake in her hands. When the receptionist called me, I froze. Walked out, blood boiling. What are you doing here? I just wanted to talk. You had years to talk. You always chose to yell, to demand, to humiliate me. She tried handing me the cake. I made corn cake. You used to like it. You threw me out. Took my room, blamed me for Kate cheating. And now you show up with cake? She was speechless. Her eyes started to water. I was tired. Life's never been easy for me. And for me, it has. I became an adult at 12, Mom. You never saw me. She reached toward me. Mike, if you touch me, I'll call security. She stopped, looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Are you really willing to cut us off like this? I already did. She stood there in the middle of the reception area, still holding the cake, as if that was supposed to magically erase everything. I looked her straight in the eye and said, calmly but firmly, you lost me a long time ago. You're only realizing it now. I turned and walked back to the office. The receptionist, visibly uncomfortable, gave me a sympathetic look. I didn't say a word, sat down at my desk, took a deep breath, and got back to work like nothing had happened. But inside, it was like something old had finally snapped, like the last rope had been cut. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered on autopilot. It was the principal at the school where my nieces and nephews studied. She said the records had been updated, but that my sister had shown up yelling, screaming that I was abandoning her children and that I would pay for it. The principal asked, would you like to file a formal complaint against her? We have security cameras and witnesses. Not yet, but please save everything. I hung up and started making a list, literally. Took out a piece of paper and a pen and wrote, people who drain me, places that exhaust me, things that steal my peace. At the top of the page, I wrote, never again. I began the process of legally changing my permanent address, got a new phone number, changed all my passwords, left the family group chats, deleted old emails, canceled the credit card they used for groceries. A few days later, a coworker, the only one who knew part of the story, offered me his guest room for as long as I needed. He said he had noticed I seemed adrift, but didn't want to intrude. I accepted. The first night in that new house, I slept for 10 straight hours. No interruptions, no texts, no noise. The next morning, as I was making coffee, my phone lit up. A new message from Samantha, another new number. You may have walked away, but one day you'll need us. And you'll remember how you treated your family. I didn't even reply, just blocked her. Then I took my list, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my wallet. Every time the guilt crept back in, that old, deep-rooted guilt they'd conditioned into me since childhood, I'd read it, and I'd remind myself that for the first time in my life, I had chosen me. It's been 3 months since I last heard their voices. Not my mother's, not my father's, not Samantha's. The silence. At first, it felt strange. I kept waking up expecting my phone to buzz, expecting another attack, another guilt trip disguised as concern. But it just stayed there, still, quiet. Now, that silence has become a refuge. I moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. It's simple, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture was chosen by me. Every bit of decor, from the early 2000s band poster to the little plant by the window, reflects my taste, my rhythm, my color. There's only one copy of the key. My routine has changed. I wake up early, make my own coffee, take as long as I want in the hot shower. Some days I still wake up tired, like my body is carrying decades of weight. But there's no yelling, no guilt, no one waiting to drain another piece of me. I started therapy. On our second session, the psychologist said, "You've spent your whole life trying to be accepted by a family that only saw you as useful, never as human." It hurt to hear that, but it also freed me. No, I'm not perfect. I carry wounds. I still catch myself looking back, remembering Christmases where I was invisible in my own house. I still remember the time I asked for a well done and got a bill instead. But now I know. I wasn't the one in the wrong. I got an invitation to my dad's 60th birthday. A cousin sent it with a little note. They won't say it, but they miss you. I left the invite sitting on my kitchen table for 2 days. Then, without overthinking, I tore it up. Threw it in the trash. Not out of revenge, not out of pride, but because it no longer made sense to go back to a place where I was never truly welcome. Today, who I am no longer fits in that house. The Saturday after the invite, I went to a local street fair, grabbed a cup of fresh coffee, sat on a wooden bench and watched people go by. Families, couples, kids running around. For a moment I wondered if one day I'd have that, my own family, someone to share this peace I fought so hard to earn. But I didn't feel rushed. For the first time, being alone didn't hurt. It was just quiet and calm. I got a notification on my phone. It was a rent reminder, and a thought hit me. I'm no longer paying for anyone else, just for me. I smiled. A small, quiet, but honest smile. Slowly, I began rebuilding. I didn't become a new person. I just stopped shrinking to fit the expectations of others. Today, when someone asks me about my family, I don't lie, but I don't explain either. I simply say, I was raised by people who taught me who I never want to be, and that's enough.